that speech. At this point, let me invite Dr. Tindemo. Jabura. Rating chanumi number maber. Mar info track. Ni tiyo maber jadu.
Award to the church, bishop, and the clergy, to the Ogot family, to Jogem, to fellow mourners. Nyasaye ber. Yani kata duo kawa Nyasaye okunyal. Nyasaye ber. Sechete. Your Grace the Bishop, I am told here you must humble yourself. Here, unless you are a professor, you talk very little. And I'm not a professor. So I'll talk as a junior academic, as a junior politician. But also, I will speak on behalf of the people of Rarieda. Because some of you do not know that the person who made Professor great was his wife, Grace Akinyi Nyanduga Ogot. Jorarieda nika, Jorarieda manika chunguru, chunguru mundo neu, just stand up. Yawa pamuru ne Jorarieda ge, pamde uru Jorarieda ge. Hello? Awach kosawe. I apologize for those who only understand English because I'll speak in Luo, but Luo and English are interrelated. If there's any word you miss, ask your neighbor to interpret. Awach koso kikawati. Ani luongano tiende molu kumjomo kongea. An mjume mararieda. Sani wabiro kae ni kaka jorarieda. Kaka jodala gi Grace. Joka nyaluo. Wan kae gi jorarieda motegno. Wan kae gi jorarieda motegno. Wan kae ni ge jomor kuomo kong'eyo no wad gi Grace the Honorable Jalango Nyanduga motelo nwa Rarieda mondi kapok wadonjo. Wan gi waziro walo giri wan waluwa gi Speaker Okode. Wan gi joma nodhi school chon nyako okiri pacho chung jogi oneni. Mage joma nochako Maranda, Index 1 and the first captain Mamaranda. Ka wabiro apenjo joma no wabiro go, jomoko no somo Maseno. Andok na somo Maseno, lakini anbe na somo Maseno. Ngenya somo Maseno mixed. Professor Nyang iwinjo, anan Maseno mixed. Momiyo joma iwacho ga nini gisomo Maseno, jadongo molokero, wane joma Maseno gogogo, odho nadhi Maranda. To an gi jayala moro, ta nyise ninto, chalna ninto nisomo River Yala, ok nidhi Yala school. Engineer Maxwell mito. Watimo mos. Na watimo mos ki Nairobi, kendo nyaka awachop kae. Professor Ogot, en ng'ano, make inja luo mora more piny ngima. Oke piny luo ma Kenya kende, to nyaki ng'e. Nkech onge jaluo e piny ngima, ichak Congo, mibi Uganda, midhi Tanzania, midhi Ethiopia, ichop South Sudan, ichop Central African Republic, miduok Kenya, mosendiko kuom jaluo maloyo Professor Ogot. And we should not take it for granted, because he could have chosen to write about anything else. But he chose to trace the roots. And I challenge the historians who are here, pick it from there. Because I think where Professor Ogot left this thing, there's something to be continued. In Luoland and in Doluo, there are words we share with Swahili. And some people think we've corrupted it. But my inquiry suggests it is because of our interactions with the Arabs in Bar El Ghazal that we pick certain words like mesa. They think we are talking about meza ya Kiswahili. Mambe sawa, maok meza ge. Uwinja gozo kuwinja. Now, Professor Ogot did not like politics. And I know that even here, the bishop might say we don't talk politics. And we won't talk politics. But he interacted with politics. Nurumo gisiasa. Professor Ogot kungurumo gisiasa in 1955. Ko yudo basari mar government, mar somo. Siasa kozok siasa. Kata managemka. Ka ilisho mi basari. Siasa kozok siasa. In 1960, Kawaloso wach katiba, Lancaster, Professor Ogot was the advisor to Tom Mboya. Siasa kozok siasa. In 1967, kakoro jo Luo nigi football teams ariyo, Luo Union and Luo Football Club. And they decided to merge it. Ngamanuket mondo lead the process and Professor Ogot. Emo result a Gor Mahia in 1968. Siasa kozok siasa. In 1970, the first person who was elected as the Vice Chancellor of the University of Nairobi, because at that time it was election, was Professor Ogot. Siasa kozok siasa. But the biggest siasa en kakoro noru iromo ginya asembo. The Honorable Grace Ogot. Koro siasa odonjo. Odonjo kozok odonjo. Ema miyo joma wajo ni kikwa wach siasa ngeuru ni Professor Ogot be interacted gi siasa. Academics kanyo siasa bende nitiere. Anagoma awacho mana ni Nyasaye mondo ke chunye kamukwe. Eruru kamana ahinya.
Thank you. Dr. Nyikal, please. 1 minute. The church has reminded me that our time is almost up. We have maximum 10 minutes. And we still have about 4 people to speak. Yes, Secretary.
Ne kanisa motelo no e nyasi mugik mar Professor Ogot, the family of Professor Ogot, all his colleagues, all the dignitaries and all fellow mourners. Good morning. Ma'am, I'm Dr. James Nyikal. I'm the MP for Seme. But I've really not come here as the MP for Seme, but to a large extent as somebody who has known Professor Ogot for a long time. Although we have not interacted much, but I've known it because way back, the early 60s, when Kenya was still under colonial rule, the names that we knew about academics was Professor Ogot. I remember when I was a small boy, my father always told me, you know, those days, mothers used to stay at home and the fathers were in Nairobi. But my father was in Nairobi, was a cook in Kileleshwa. In those days, mainly only white people lived in Kileleshwa. But the only other people that I could remember was Professor Ogot, Professor Wasau, the first vice president, Jedwong Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. So what I remember most, and this is really the beginning of leadership as we mourn him, was my father always telling me, because he was living in a small domestic quarters. It was actually one room, so when we visit him, that's where we used to stay. But in the evenings, we would walk around and he would tell me, if you go to school and study, you will also live in these houses, like where Professor is living. So I knew from that time that there must be something very big about going to school that will make you be like Professor. I then later on joined the University of Nairobi medical school, he was already a professor. And although I hear there is no, we shouldn't have politics, but really, if merit was the issue even from that time, I think he should have probably one of the people who should have led the university first. But that didn't happen. But later on I wondered, history. So what is so great about history? But I've since learned that history is what actually guides the future. And lately, when we had the Pinyin Luo function, Professor gave us guidance of where we as Luo people arrived here and how we arrived here and what factors about us drove us to come here. And I think he expressed, he actually came online and guided on if you want to move forward, even in politics, how you must take care of history. So as we say goodbye to him, and we say pole to his family and to all his colleagues, what we must really think of, people like them, do we have people of that caliber anymore? Do we take guidance and vision from them? I think that is how we should look. I can see professional team there. Some of them, we worked with them at the university for a short time when I was there. But I think let's have more of you who guide us the way Professor guided us and stuck in his line. Some of us kind of deviated a bit, but those who have stuck to their lines like he has, like I know many of you have, will take us far. So that I said that I must come today, although I've arrived late, and say goodbye to Professor. The history of this country, he has written it luckily, but actually he lived it. And with that, he actually had a vision for the future. And those are the kind of visions we should look at. Sometimes people deride academics, but it is the understanding of how the world is structured and how the world moves that will guide us into the next step. With that, I ask God Almighty to keep Professor's soul in eternal peace.
Thank you. I'd want to stop Dr. Nyikal from talking. Nige Dr. Nyikal kendo nyanyawara. Ewo mi obedo doctor. Nige osmosis. By osmosis. Adungeyo gawa umo Professor Nyo okendo nyasaurika. Ewo mi obedo professor. So Jasembo, we acknowledge Nikara Obende, Nyiwa have made other people professors. So we are very proud kaka your game. But right. Adwacho, for the first time during this funeral, I, as the MP for game, I got a huge support from the political class. Nyikal supported us, Dr. Tina Molo gave us his donation, Atani gave his donation, Owalo gave his donation, P.S. Omolo gave his donation, the President of the Republic of Kenya gave his donation, and the CS Wandai also gave his donation, including Nyamita and the Honorable David Chi. So I'm very grateful for my colleagues who came through for us. Today, the entire constituency and the country is mourning as we lay to rest a man of unparalleled and distinguished service to his people. Professor Ogot immersed himself into valuable research, works, and dived deeper into the balance of academia, not for personal enrichment, but to help quench the thirst of many that deeply yearn for knowledge. at a time that knowledge was scarce and limited to a few. For that, we are forever grateful for Professor for delving in that research front. Through his trailblazing in telling the story of our people and culture, many got to understand and appreciate our identity as a Luo people and the historical underpinning that keeps us together. Professor Ogot has lived his life through endeavor to service and contribution to society, impacting many lives. Key to note is the Odera Kango campus of Maseno University, whose land was donated by Professor to help champion the cause of education in game. Even as our hearts are heavy with the burden of losing this towering figure of our land, we remain strengthened by the rich legacy he leaves behind and the timeless pieces of published works that will keep him immortalized. I am honored to have been taught by Prof when I was in Kenyatta University and to have built a meaningful friendship thereafter. I bring to this family of Prof my heartfelt condolences and those of the great people of game, and pray that the family will remain strong and after this enormous loss. May the good Lord that I worship and believe in entire his soul, eternal peace. This morning, Bishop was reading Psalms 116, verse 12. And that's what I challenge the family to read. Read 12 and 13. Oh Lord, what can I give you for the blessings and benedictions you have given me? And the Lord answers that through offering. This morning, I went to do that, exactly that in church, after reading that verse. And I want to thank the committee Madala, led by Zamopot, for having done a good job, for raising the money Manokonyo Dala. Of course, I also thank the teachers. They came through for me. I sent Dala through Ogam 108,000 shillings from the head teachers Magame. And Ati have here the balance Manodong Managi Choko 111,000 shillings. So I think Anagwero Kamanu Kumgimamar Professor Angenu Professor then number one throughout Otio Maber, Ondiko Bugi Mabeo, Ongeka Mawinje ni Professor Nogo Boto. Bepoka winyo ngama Professor, Mago Bote class. Ingen game ka, emaji soome. Jibanga inkiro mogo, Oluongre daktari, Tokara en nangama cholodo. Adwan jogeman ka, Kiluong ni daktari, Ibe doctor kakombaka, Mosome University. Kiki luongri gimoyingi. Machiemo ngado terige koto ketho nyingi. With those few remarks, as I invite the governor of Siaya to come and invite the governor of Kisumu before inviting Owal and then finally the CS speaks. Let me ask the church and the choir, Siso, we na morome wacho ni adwaro teko manyasaye pinyo pongo yuma ganjao. Adwana winj mano mondo roho no dhi malo.